Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning is on fatherhood. Research and studies underscore the increasing need to address father absence from families in our communities and neighborhoods. Statistics show that children with fathers who are involved are 70% less likely to drop out of school. At least 70% of youth in state-operated institutions come from fatherless homes, and researchers at Columbia University, they found that children living in two-parent households with a poor relationship with their father are still 68% more likely to smoke, drink, or use drugs compared to all teens in two-parent homes. My first guest, he works as the program director at Words of Hope Ministries, and he spent many years sharing his personal story to help teach and mentor young men to become better fathers. It's my pleasure to welcome Rev Leondis Fuller. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you for being here. And as stated, you've been working for many years on helping young people who are in a position to father their children be the best that they can be. And doing that, you've shared your own story, which I think is a story of strength, if nothing else, because you lost not one, not two, but 3 children to violence. So if you would, just kind of give us some insight on the things that you've gone through that's helped mold you to the man that you are today.
Well, actually, each time I return back to the higher academic arena to get a degree, when I walk across the stage, a tragedy comes right after the degree.
Oh, man.
And thank God I didn't go for my doctorate.
Oh.
But when in 1993, I got my first degree, and a few months after that, my youngest kid was age 12, was killed in a drive-by shooting. What that did just kind of gave me the drive to continue working with restoring families and working with people with substance abuse. Welfare reform was just coming into the picture in the state of Wisconsin, and I was working in the W2 arena, and I was doing some fatherhood programming because fatherhood tied into W2 to help reintegrate the family structure with dads participating in the livelihood of their children. And I worked for Children Up Front for a couple of years, which was founded through Goodwill Industries, and there was a gentleman by the name of Jerry Hamilton. He was a very, very instrumental person with that program. Then they closed that program down because Goodwill fell out of the W2 arena. And I left that particular program vacant, and I saw that it was such a powerful program. So I knew I needed to probably do something to have a greater impact on dads. So I decided to go back to school to get my bachelor's degree. And in the midst of that, I developed a program called Future, which stands for Fathers Uniquely Thriving to Understand Responsibilities in Education. And when I graduated with my bachelor's, Future went into fruition. It was a well-rounded nonprofit organization. 3 months after I walked across the stage, the second tragedy in my life happened. My second oldest son, my junior, he was shot 7 times. And he died. That was within a few blocks from where my youngest son got killed at.
That's heartbreaking.
And so it just let me know this community where my children and I resided was really hampered with gun violence. So I stayed in school because I wanted to finish nurturing the Future program and allowing it to really get involved with the Milwaukee community. So I graduated in 2002 with my master's. My bachelor's in 2000, 2002 was my master's. And my third oldest son, he was 27, he was shot 6 times. And all 3 of my sons' lives were taken within a 9-year period and a 9-block radius.
Wow.
So I really realized that fathers, namely myself, was cheated out of having a relationship with his children.
Yeah.
But then when you take a look at many of the dads that were in prison, they were cheated out of having a relationship with their children. So not only did I lose my children, but the individuals that committed the homicide, they lost a relationship with their children as well. I ended up working for Big Brothers and Big Sisters, which I had a pilot program called the Amanchi program.
Mm-hmm.
The Amanchi program was a program that's had people of faith mentoring children of promise. Okay. It was developed by Reverend Dr. Wilson Good out of Philadelphia. He was the first African-American mayor of Philadelphia, and he developed that program, and I got kind of under his wing with working with children of incarcerated parents. So everything that I was engaged in, Andrea, was really about strengthening families, working with the male portion of the family, getting them to be accountable, getting them to step up to the plate and taking their responsibility for their children.
Yes, and allow me to say that I am so sorry for your loss, because no matter how many years go by, that is something that you probably think about each and every day, and I'm sure people cannot imagine, I can't imagine being in your shoes and still being able to move forward and really take that and help change other people's lives. So I'm sure I speak for a lot of people when I say thank you for that. You've been compared to the biblical character Job, because he lost his children, and it was somewhat of a test of his character. So your test is now your testimony, and I'm just interested in knowing what are some of the things that you say and do with these young men in order to help them become better fathers within Word of Hope Ministries.
Well, it's a good thing about Word of Hope Ministries. I've been there for pretty much 14 years. It was founded by Bishop C.H. McCullen 21 years ago. He had asked me to come and work with him through mentoring ex-offenders, and through this mentoring ex-offenders piece, that's just a portion, because we mentor to anyone that's within the city of Milwaukee that are 18 years of age and older. And with this reentry piece, 80% of the individuals that are incarcerated are namely dads. So when they come out, getting them reintegrated back into the family structure, finding out that the child support needs, how to even be a dad. A lot of them, they made babies, but they don't know the first thing about becoming a real dad, for the simple fact they didn't have a relationship with their own fathers.
True.
So it's hard to figure how to be something that you didn't have no modeling of how to be. So one thing we have to do is get them to take a look at their values. Your values can dictate what you do, how you do it, and where you do it. And most of them, that their life had gotten to the point where it is right now based on what they value, whether it was valuing illegal drugs, getting money the wrong way, not even knowing the rites of passage from boyhood to manhood. They would go from infanthood, boyhood to fatherhood. And it should be infanthood, boyhood, teenhood, manhood, fatherhood, husbandhood. Husbandhood, then fatherhood.
Right.
And so many times they miss the rites of passage and where they need to develop as men. So teaching them, and so many young men, so many mature men are eager to learn what it is that I missed.
Yeah.
When you get them off to themselves alone, you find that there's so many empty fatherhood images in our adult males that they're really traumatized with what their childhood been like, and how they haven't been able to be what they need to be. And that's where the mentoring comes in.
Yeah.
I recruit mentors from throughout the city. A lot of them come through the faith-based community, universities and such. And I have a curriculum that's designed to change the mindset from criminal thinking to more rational thinking, from irrational thinking to rational thinking. And and the sacrifice of losing my children is one thing, but it allowed me to pour into thousands of people.
Yeah.
And then that's the wonderful thing. In Word of Hope, I came there as the director of mentoring. So it gave me the opportunity through the blessings of Bishop McCullen to really mold a program that can mold the community.
Yeah.
And getting individuals to take responsibilities, get skilled job training, get employment, get drug and alcohol treatment, returning back to school, getting the training that's necessary to get them livable wage jobs. Word of Hope is a phenomenal institution that promotes people to better their lives in more ways than one. Bishop McCullen has a new slogan. He calls Word of Hope the neighborhood hope dealers. we provide hope in the lives of many people.
Yeah.
And when we had the tragedy on Sherman Park last year where the uprest went crazy and they were saying, well, what is people doing? Word of Hope is right within a 4 or 5 block radius of that area. Word of Hope has always and has continued to draw people in the community, whether they were on W-2, whether they failed in one area or not. Word of Hope's doors has always been open to provide social services. Today, we still do it. The governor has been at our site. We were just awarded through the Department of Workforce Development some dollars to provide skilled job training. And we have partners within the community at livable wage jobs where we have partnership with several different companies to get people some skilled jobs.
And that's important. I'm glad you brought that up. I should just mention Word of Hope Ministries is located right on North 40th Street.
Correct.
And when you talk about individuals who may be incarcerated and they are there mainly because sometimes people find it difficult to find a job that pays them in order to maybe take care of their family, take care of themselves, and they sometimes turn to crime in order to survive. So your big thing is really making sure there are jobs out here for individuals to be able to work a job to get a, I guess you would say, an honest living. Yes, to make an honest living. And you mentioned Governor Scott Walker. He came by your organization this past summer, and that is pretty much what he was focused on, the fact that the job rate has changed somewhat in our community. Really, it's the lowest it's been in a long time.
And Andrea, there many people say there's no job. There are plenty of jobs.
It's the skills that people are lacking for the jobs that exist.
But we can connect them with getting the skills.
That's what it is.
One thing is to want a job, and one thing to be job ready. But the other thing is when you get a job, to keep the job.
Okay. One thing I think is also worth mentioning, the governor actually referred to Word of Hope Ministries as a pillar in the Milwaukee community, as well as a key resource for workforce development. How important is it for someone that's at that level of government statewide to realize the work that you're doing right here in the city of Milwaukee?
Well, you know, it's so many times people overlook some of the organizations right within the heart of the community that does a lot of the work to help the people within the community. And if it's not for a little broadcast such as this or what the governor has said and done, a lot of times people wouldn't even be aware of these programs that's so effective with getting people employment. We have GED program, we have job skill training, we have employment placement, we have AODA services, we have mentoring services, social services, and this doesn't cost anybody anything in the community. All it takes is a person to be committed to want something for themselves. And through our mentoring program, we can change people's perception of not wanting something to see how it really is worthwhile with having something. And to earn your own and have your own and separate from your association with the little radiator, the Bobos, and these nicknames have a real phenomenal
That's
thing.
The first I heard, little radiator.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a big radiator too. But when they began to find solid mentors in their lives, people that pour into them to support them in what they do and how they can do it, they feel that they've just got a revamping of family, a revamping of someone to love and care about what happens in life. Word of Hope is about loving what happens to the people in our community. Bishop McCullen, he's really serious about making sure that each person that's employed through Word of Hope has that caring professional nature about themselves to love those that we serve.
Okay, and wrapping up, I just want to find out if there's someone who's watching or would like to pass the word along to someone they know. Do they just show up to Word of Hope? Or
that is a way they can do it, Andrea. Hey, but we have a phone contact number at 414-447-1965. We have job readiness programs and trainings done on a weekly basis, Monday through Friday. They call on a Thursday or Wednesday. They get scheduled to come in on a Monday. If they come in as a walk-in, we'll start their paperwork right away, getting them going, seeing what all services that they need.
Okay, that's awesome stuff, and I'm so glad we were able to have you here today to make the public aware of all the outstanding things that you've been doing for many years right here in the city. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your story as well.
No problem.
All the best to you.
God bless.
Reverend Leondis Fuller, he is the program director at Word of Hope Ministries. Again, they're located right there at 40th and Center. And for more information on the work they do, you can visit their website at holycathedral.org or give them a call at 447-1965. When we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we'll continue our conversation about fatherhood and find out more about an organization that helps fathers engage in their children's lives. We'll meet the president and CEO from My Father's House right after this.